Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin. Today we're going to be talking about very interesting subject matter. I actually meant to do this video a while ago, and because of recent events, I decided to do this one. And yes, I'm in the same outfit as my last video. I just sat down and did the whole thing to give to you guys earlier. I was just on a roll with my notes and I was just like, I'm recording it today. So today I'm going to be going over some reader, reviewer, and author etiquette. Now, I'm by no means an expert on reviewing etiquette or reader etiquette, and you may have some other things that I have missed, but I did want to sit down and talk about this, and I added the author category because of recent events on Twitter where an author kind of like sicked her fans unknowingly on a reviewer who did not like her book. And so I want to include this for aspiring authors who are just like getting started and may not know a couple of these things, or even veterans, because veterans can also make mistakes as well. These are just a couple of things that I think is important to know about reading, reviewing, and some of my personal opinions, not universal facts or anything. And I'm actually really curious. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other etiquette things that relate to being a reader and reviewer of romance, or for authors that you think that I missed, because I'm sure I missed some of them. So this like looks like a lot more just like scrolling through it, but it's just because it's in notes. Like it's fine. It's not that long. Now I'm gonna start with the reader reviewer side of things. These are just rules of thumb that I think we can all follow. And if you have a different opinion, please let me know in the comments. I would really like to discuss it. The first one I think is like the biggest one, and it's been harped on a lot on Instagram, and it's don't tag authors in negative reviews. If you think that an author is going to share a negative review on their Instagram story because you tagged them in it, they're not going to do that. And it's really just kind of rude and tacky. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you think that the author is going to go and rewrite their book? I don't understand the tagging part. I'm not saying you can't have a negative opinion of a book, but the tagging part is what gets me. The only time I've ever tagged an author, especially on Instagram, is a book that I consider 5 stars. And it's not just Instagram, it's like on all platforms. Just don't tag authors in negative reviews. It's just tacky. Just don't do it. Authors have feelings, and it hurts them to see somebody not like their book. If I moved, it was because my battery died, and I should have changed it before I started this video. Okay, so the second one that I have is, personally, I don't think it's a good idea to contact authors, especially during the week of release for a new release. Don't contact them to point out all of the grammatical errors that are still in their book. Trust me, I know. Grammatical errors, especially if there's like a lot of them, they're annoying. But I'm talking about like, ooh, I found this is the wrong it's to use. You know, you forgot an apostrophe. This is him instead of his. Stuff like that. Contacting an author during release week, this is like their labor of love. They're so excited to get it out in the world, and they get this email or a message from a person that's like, hey, I just read your book. And instead of like them saying that they liked it, it's like, these are all the grammatical mistakes that you completely missed during all of your rounds of editing. And it's just kind of like a letdown. So I'm gonna relate with you like real world experience, because this is what I personally know of Juliet, who is an indie author. So that means that she does everything herself. She had 1 round of edits from me, 2 rounds from her editor. She had 3 beta readers and 4 sensitivity readers, and her newest release still had grammatical errors that nobody else caught, because whenever I read through, I also point out the grammar as well. But I miss some, and they're just there, and it's just like so not exciting during release week, or really any time. And there's this really cool thing, if you're reading on a Kindle, you can actually highlight the word and like send it to notify the author, the publisher, whatever. But most likely those things won't get changed, because it actually costs money to go back and reformat a book and then upload it to Amazon or whatever. And then if you have these books in print, you have to pay for the new edition of the book to be printed. So probably not gonna get solved. Just letting you know. Okay, so this next one, I can totally commiserate with everybody who complains about long wait times between releases, and this is actually kind of ironic because today there's a lot of Twitter talk about a person who went after Nora Roberts saying that she should publish faster, which is hilarious. She's like explaining publishing and how she should be releasing her books. And it's really funny, but this is comical because the way that she went about it was just so ridiculous, and saying like the customer's always right, and that was ridiculous. But do you know how many times this happens to authors on a regular basis, not just Nora Roberts? And it's not always like critical, like we need your books faster. There are those, but even the ones where it's like, I love your book so much, I wish we can get more per year from you. It really hurts the author to hear that because their release schedule is the best that they can do. If they're able to write a book and edit it and get everything pulled together in time to release, 4+ books a year, then that is completely within their ability. But no authors are the same. They can't write at the same pace. They can't, and this is very specific to indie authors, some of them can't pay for a ton of rounds of editing for their book, and so they have to save up for that. And it's just kind of disheartening to hear like, oh, you don't write fast enough. I know I'm going to talk about Juliet a lot in this video, but it's because she's the author that I personally know. And she, as an indie author, goes through particular experiences that are interesting. And this kind of relates to the release schedule. She has seen a bunch of reviews that say, I wish we can get them faster, her new Stay a Spell series. But she's also writing other series in between that. So that's why the Stay a Spell series isn't coming out closer together. But anyway, there was one review that she and I were just kind of like, we don't know what else to do. It's so crazy. Where the reviewer said that they were no longer going to be reading the series because there is a couple that's being teased for future books. And when Juliet announced like which couple were going to be in which book, she did announce the rest of the titles of the books and which couples were in it. The reviewer got mad because that this couple wasn't getting like the earlier book, it was the later book, and she was like saying how the author was doing it on purpose, that she doesn't like being teased for multiple books for a series, and it's just like to hype it all up and then it's always a letdown. And that's completely not the reason why. It's because Juliet was still figuring out in her head what the conflict was, because it was a second chance romance, and so she wanted to make sure that the conflict was very solid before she started writing their book. The process takes time sometimes, and so that might be why one of your favorite couples isn't getting an earlier release. I guess, but this whole point is have patience with authors. If you're not George R.R. Martin, then they're doing the best that they can and releasing when they can. This next one is just respect for your fellow readers. Do not comment on a negative review of one of the books that you really love. Like, don't go after looking for a fight and telling them why they're wrong. I just think that you shouldn't do it. Reading is subjective. Not everyone's gonna like the same books. I say it all the time. I don't like the same books as my friends on BookTube do, and they don't like the same books that I like. It's just really impossible to like everything. There's gonna be some books that you both like loved, and some books that it's just like, ooh, you like that, but I didn't. Or like, I love this book. I can't believe you didn't love this book. But don't go and try to start things on the internet with people. Like, just don't. I think it's really important to remember a negative review on a book that you really love is not a personal attack against you, unless somebody's like literally in the review saying stuff about you. Then of course. But yeah, just don't get mad at them. Just don't get mad at them for having a different opinion. Everyone has different opinions. It's fine. This next one kind of goes hand in hand, and it's don't personally attack an author whose book you don't like. When I write a negative review, I really try. I know I can get very like emotional when I talk about books. If you've seen any of my book reviews, I get like really like emotional about things and just like really hyped and really aggravated or whatever. I know it's hard, and I try my reviews to kind of keep it to the critical points, like what did I not like about the book? Is it the plot? Is it the pacing? Did I not connect to characters? Did I think it was missing something? Did I think that the third act ruined it? And that's all like kind of critical things that I don't like, but it's crazy. So I like to do this thing where I go and read negative reviews of books that I really love, because honestly, I like seeing the other side of things. And some of these reviews where it's like 2 stars of my favorite books, I'm like, I can see how people would feel like that, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But some of these reviews, guys, they attack authors, and it's so uncalled for. Like, I read a review where it's like, I bet you this person's like not married, fat, has cats, is the cat lady, because there's no way that this author knows about like real love, and these characters are so stupid, whatever. And I'm just like, that is completely uncalled for. You don't write a review like that. I've read more where it's just like, this person's never done a writing class in their life. Like, I can write better papers than them whenever I was in high school and stuff like that. And I'm just like, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot. People write these reviews, and I'm just like, No, don't do that. I think it's very easy to forget that authors are just regular people and they can have their feelings hurt. It doesn't seem real, the person behind the words, but there are people behind writing these books, and like every single book, I try to keep in mind that this author worked really hard on this book and poured a lot of themselves. You know, they wouldn't have taken the time, the process that it takes to publish a book and go through all the steps if they didn't really like what they were writing. And I'm not talking about the people who are just like churning out books and just kind of doing it as like this money grab scheme. That's not what I'm talking about. Most authors are writing because they really love to write and they just want to share stories with readers. So it's just completely uncalled for to act like that in your reviews and in any correspondence that you have with an author. Like, you should definitely not be contacting them personally, like DMing them. Don't do that. Don't do that. And my very last one is do review every book that you read. Even if you didn't like it, even if you felt middle of the road about it. I know some people only kind of write reviews for books that they really like, and that's great, but especially for indie authors, every single review counts. The numbers, the algorithms, it all affects it. So writing a review is very, very, very important. And I tried to make that a goal. It was actually one of my New Year's resolutions for 2020 to write a review for every single book that I've read, and I have, except for like the month of November, and I need to catch up again. I did this in October, but it's because I'm really busy right now. But I do plan on writing reviews for every single book that I read in 2020. Like, every single one will have a review, and I'm really proud of myself for that. Even if it's 2 lines, even if it's a little paragraph, like, write something, rate it something, do something about it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, reviews matter, especially for indie authors. You have got to review for indie authors. They do not have the clout, they don't have the reach, they have to use their own money for a marketing budget. Whereas if you're with a publishing house, they take care of that. And even authors who publish with like smaller publishing houses, sometimes they don't really market their books at all, so reviews still matter to them. But yeah, support indie authors. Okay, so these kind of definitely are rating specific, like how I personally rate books and just like rating things in general. My biggest takeaway for reviewing books that you read is really rate the book how you feel about it. And it goes both ways. If you really love a book and nobody else likes this book, still give it that high rating. If you think it deserves a 5-star rating and everybody else says, I don't understand any person who gives this a 5-star, and if you feel like this is a 5-star for you, there's a reason behind it and you should still stick with that 5-star review. And on the flip side, if everyone likes this book and it just like really bothered you and you have some critiques of why it didn't land with you, then that's valid too. And you want to give it a low rating, give it the low rating. You don't have to like go with the crowd, is what I'm saying. Just rate it how you feel. If you feel like it was a silly, fluffy, fun romance, that still can deserve a 5-star as much as like a very angsty and introspective romance book can. Like, both of them, they're able to be rated 5 stars. There's no like criteria for a 5-star read. It's how you feel, you know? So just rate it how you like it. Just rate it how you like it. Next is, you're under no obligation to like ARC books that you have gotten. ARCs are advanced reader copies, and these are copies that are sent to readers pre-release, and it's in order to build up momentum, hype before a book is released. But just because you got an ARC from an author, if you got it from them personally or if you got it through NetGalley, that does not mean that you have to rate it high. And I'm not saying it might not affect your future ARCs if you request another book by this author and you didn't like it. I'm not saying it won't affect it, but I'm just saying, don't lie just because you got an ARC. Next is, there's no real right way to rate a book. If you want to be stingy with your 5 stars and you've only ever rated books, like a handful of books, 5 stars, that's completely your prerogative. You rate books the way that you feel like you need to rate books. But if you want to dole out the 5 stars to every book that makes you happy and smile, even if you have problems with it, I think you should still rate them 5 stars. There's no rhyme or reason, like, just how your rating is completely subjective to you. And you just figure out how you rate books and don't worry about how other people rate books. So I wrote down kind of like my personal rating system. DNFs is no rating. I will not give a rating for like a DNF. And these are books that I just didn't finish. I know I won't like, so I just call it quits. And mostly it's before I hit the 50% mark, because I think that that's not enough to review. I will review books if I pass the 50% mark and I'm like 16, 70%, I will rate those. But if it's like early DNF, no rating for me. I just don't rate them. 1 stars, I don't give them. I don't know if I've ever given them, and I might. You might go on Goodreads and go look and be like, Justin, you've given a 1 star. I just don't like to give 1 stars. It's either going to be a DNF or it's going to be like a 2 star. So for the 2 stars is, I really didn't enjoy the majority of the book, but maybe I stuck around because I like either heard other people really liked it, so I like stayed, or it was like really compelling in the way that like a train wreck, you can't look away. It's just kind of like, what is this madness? And you can't stop. And these are books that I had a lot of problems with and would probably not recommend to other readers. It doesn't mean that I think that nobody should like this book. It just means that it's just not going, I'm not going to keep the book if I own it. The bad just really outweighs the good for me in this book, and I probably won't pick it up ever again. Now, 3 stars are the middle of the road books. These are books that I enjoyed but still had some issues with. But usually 3 stars, I will still read another book by this author or within the same series, just to like give the author multiple shots, because this is a secret you may not know, but even your favorite author will not write every single book and you'll love it. It's almost impossible for them to write every single book and you love them equally. It's just sometimes they'll have misses, and that's okay, which is why I like to give authors 2nd and 3rd chances to like wow me and amaze me. Maybe it was just like an off book that they weren't feeling, who knows. But anyway, 3 stars, I will still read the book. I liked it, but then I didn't. It's like half and half. 4 stars is, I love the majority of it, and it might have like some minor quibbles, maybe a trope that I really didn't like, the way it was handled. Maybe that 3rd act had an unnecessary breakup that really didn't add anything to the story. It was just like, I need conflict in the 3rd act. It's probably gonna get a 4 star for me in that regard. It's just missing that like oomph to push it over to the 5 star. I enjoyed it. I really loved it. I'll probably mostly gush about it, and then at the end of the review being like, but there was like this one thing, and that's my 4 stars. Now my 5 stars are things that I absolutely loved. Am I saying that they're all perfect? No. Did I have some issues with them? I might have. I know that one of my favorite books of all time has kind of like a mustache twirly hero, and this is one of the tropes that I dislike, like just kind of like, I'm so evil kind of thing, and like they kind of have like their villain speech and just like not very dynamic. My favorite book has this, and I still gave it a 5 star. It's because I enjoyed the story. Like all the good things far outweighed the bad things, and I really don't think about that when I think about the book. I'm not gonna dock a star for that if I really can overlook it. It's personal. If I can overlook it, then I'm like 5 star read for me. Can you rate novellas 5 stars? Absolutely. Novellas can be 5 star reads. Don't dock a star just because it's not a full and complete book. If you enjoyed it and it told the story well, completely, give that book a 5 star. Can you rate an unpopular book 5 stars? Yes, absolutely. Please rate that book 5 stars. It's completely up to you. And don't let anyone convince you that if you rated a book 5 stars, don't let anyone convince you to drop it down. If you rethink it yourself and maybe read another book by the same author that like wowed you even more and you want to like adjust the rating, totally get that. But don't let other people convince you that the way that you rate books is wrong. Okay, and now for my author-specific etiquette things that I have. Again, going down the line. Reviews are for readers. Goodreads is not a space for authors. It's a space for readers to review books and to share with their fellow readers to let them know which books they may like and which books they might not like. This is a place where trigger warnings are included because not all authors include trigger warnings. I think you should. There at least should be like a page in the beginning that says trigger warnings. Read it if you want to, and you don't need to read it if you don't want to, but I do think that trigger warnings are important, and Goodreads is a place for people to get trigger warnings. And I know that some authors get mad because they're like, oh, all these reviews that show trigger warnings and it's spoiling the book, and it's like, trigger warnings are not spoilers. They're saving a reader from harm. So I don't know what else to say about that. This one is completely personal, and Juliet kind of laughed at this one because she does this, and I was like, I don't like it. So personally, I'm not on Goodreads, and I'm not looking for an author to go like my review on Goodreads. I'm actually reviewing for other people, like other readers, to see my review, and that's why I review on Goodreads. But like the goal is not to get the attention of the author. If I want an author to read my review, I pretty much like tag them on Twitter or Instagram. If it's like a 5-star read, like I said, I only tag for 5-star reads. But this is a completely personal opinion for me. I kind of feel pressure if an author likes my 5-star review or 4-star review, because now I'm like, are they watching my reviews now? Are they gonna see another review that I do for their book and be disappointed if I give their book a 3-star or even, God forbid, a 2-star? I don't know. It's like, oh, I don't want authors to see my negative reviews. I don't write my negative reviews for the authors. Funnily enough, I did rate one of my favorite authors' new releases this year kind of low, and I post my reviews on Instagram in my Instagram story, and they're called quick reviews. They're really short, and this author actually like looks at my story pretty consistently, and I was hoping that she wasn't going to look at the story when I was doing quick reviews because I knew that I give her book a low rating, and she did, and I was dying. I was like, no, I don't want her to see my negative review for her book. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I don't like it whenever I know authors have seen my negative reviews. I really don't. I don't review negatively for the author to see it. I don't want them to see it. Okay, so now we're getting into like the nitty gritty, and I have to say this before I jump into this. Most reviewers are reviewing books for free. They pay for your books and they read it and they review it. They do their blog, they do booktube, they might be small booktubers, and they're reading for the enjoyment of it and reviewing with no compensation. And if you're paying for reviews, I would caution you against that. It's not a good strategy to pay random people to review your books positively and they didn't actually like it or didn't even read it at all. And I know that this happens because Juliet gets contacted by a bunch of people that says, if you pay me $50, I will rate your book 5 stars and review it. It's crazy. People do this. Now this seems like common sense, but apparently it's not, because this is the stuff that happened on Twitter. Do not contact people, reviewers, who have rated your book negatively and actually them. Don't tell the reviewers that how they felt about a book is wrong, and don't tell them this is how you're supposed to feel, this is how I wrote it, and you interpreted it wrong. Like, just don't. Do not search yourself on social media looking for people who have said negative things about your books and then engage with them. First of all, especially if you're on Twitter, your replies are shown on your feed. Anyone who's following you are most likely going to see this reply that you've done. So in this particular instance on Twitter, which I became involved with because I was very annoyed and I was feeling some type of way, because usually I don't engage on Twitter. Twitter is usually toxic. I don't like it, but I was just very mad because this reviewer had less than 100 followers and this author had over 200K followers. When her readers saw this author comment on this reviewer saying like, I'm glad you lasted this long because she was only 75% of the way in. I do care about this book, because the reviewer was like, I'm not caring about this book. Don't passive aggressively comment on someone's negative review being like, well, I'm glad you read it anyway, or like, I'm at least glad you tried, or thanks for giving it a shot even though you hated it. It's very passive aggressive, and it's likely that your readers are going to see your comment, and then a lot of readers are very passionate about their favorite authors and they want to like protect their author's feelings, and even if you don't encourage it, they feel like they need to jump in and defend you, and some of it can get really nasty, and I think that it is uncalled for, and I think that it's something that some authors intentionally do so that they can like say like, oh, I'm blameless, I didn't tell my readers to do it, but they know if they comment, their readers are going to see it. And so authors who do this know that they don't technically have to say anything to this person. They know that their readers will do all the work for them and render them blameless, but this is called weaponizing your readership, and it is completely and totally uncalled for and unfair, and it's kind of hard to believe when authors are like, I never intended for my readers to go after this person. I don't know, it's hard, especially if you have a large following, to believe that you didn't believe that nobody would see this, that this was only, you thought that this interaction with this reader was private. Probably wasn't. But authors, as much as negative reviews hurt, readers are entitled to their opinion. You will get negative reviews. Even the most beloved book of all time will get negative reviews. It's just the way it works. You do have to develop sort of a thick skin when you're an author, because unfortunately there are going to be nasty reviews out there, nasty reviewers, people who are pretty much trolling you, and it's just something that you have to get used to. So yeah, my best advice is do not engage. Engage with the positive reviews, share your positive reviews, and just ignore the negative reviews. Don't share them. I know some authors who take screenshots of negative reviews and share them on their private Facebook group for basically their readers to pump them up again and be like, no, that person's so wrong about it. And it just creates a toxic environment, and I don't think you should do that either. It's kind of like training your readers to like go after negative reviews if they see them out in the wild by themselves, even if you didn't call attention to them. So I don't think that's a good idea either. All right, guys, I have no idea how long this video is, but I'm wrapping it up. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe to get notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, life's better with a little HEA. Bye, guys.